how do you define the CMO role in 2025 and how has that evolved since you've been at Singlife?
There's an ever-expanding remit, as we've said before, but ultimately the CMO's role is to help sales sell. I think the mindset has to be always agile and always wanting to learn because trends evolve and move very quickly. It encompasses data, marketing technologies, customer experience, consumer research, using data, analyzing it, and delivering campaigns, measuring impact, how it drives sales. If you're in a C-suite role, you really have to think 360 and think about building connection. You should be able to, really try to pull people together to get things done. And I think that is what CMOs actually should bring to the table.
I mean, it's all those facets. It's why we're getting such a complicated role as the CMOs.
Yes, and NPS now.
Yeah, I love my NPS scores. Hello and welcome to the CMO Office. My name is Nikki Taylor. I am the Marketing Communications and Director for Analytic Partners. And I'm here to help you claim your seat in the C-suite. And to do that, I'm speaking with those that have done just that. So today I'm joined by the lovely and talented Debra, CMO of Singlife. Welcome.
Thank you very much. You flatter me.
Awesome. So we're going to dive straight in. And what I want to talk about today is that the CMO role has traditionally been around brand and campaigns. And I know you've had an unconventional way to a CMO role. Yeah. But what I want to understand from you first off is how do you define the CMO role in 2025 and how has that evolved since you've been at Singlife?
Well, I think it's hard to define the role, right? There's an ever-expanding remit, as we've said before. But ultimately, the CMO's role is to help sales sell. So whatever you have to do to help sales sell, you have to do, right?
That's a great point.
So in some companies, brand isn't really traditionally part of the marketing. Brand might have gone to communications, right? And is communications part of CMO roles now? Depends. It depends on the company. It depends on the size of the company. For us at Singlife, I started with communications and a small marketing team, which was handling mainly product marketing. I ended up taking over all of digital marketing as well, so all marketing is under me. Brand as well. Brand was the original remit. And gradually along the way at Singlife, we've added the customer focus into the marketing role as well, because it actually was separate. So the customer segmentation piece, customer segments, you are always marketing to segments. Why wouldn't it be under the CMO role, right? And in terms of customer research, marketing research, marketing analytics, data, all encompassing. We don't have a CDO, so all of it came under the marketing remit. So hence, that's the role for me today. I think it really depends on the size of company and the type of company. We are not too large. We're not very large. We're not small either, but we're not large. So Singlife actually, in that sense, has to be very efficient. And, sure, why not? I mean, I'm more than happy to take on more things. Of course, it adds more work and more scope, but it's interesting. You're learning.
Yeah.
And I think it's the most important thing for any CMO. To be in marketing, you have to know what trends are.
I think that's a good point, and I wouldn't say it's just, Singlife is quite a large one for Singapore, but even UPS, we discussed this before. I was given CX like you and all that sort of stuff, because I think as the role has evolved and we think through, like you said, how do you get sales? You have to address those. And when you're all siloed out, people have different goals, different objectives. And so it doesn't really level up to marching in the same direction. So I think that's great. In your remit, it includes everything from brand and PR and customer experience and data, everything that you just talked about there. But that breadth says that, what does that breadth say about the CMO's position in today's C-suite? So how's that established you among the leaders? Because that's what we all want to know, right?
Well, I think that I originally in my role was as part of the C-suite already, was very much responsible for building the brand. The brand, or building on the brand of the merge of the new company that we have and building that whole trust. It was always not just about marketing or just about brand. If you're in a C-suite role, you really have to think 360 and think about building connections. I think as communicators, marketing people should be communicators or in the comms role, right? Or the brand role. You are a communicator. You should be able to read the room. You should be able to, really try to pull people together to get things done. And I think that is what CMOs actually should bring to the table. It's not just by helping sales get that number. I mean, you see connections, you see things. I mean, I look at things like even like customer data. Why isn't this going through? Or customer experience, right? And it involves really putting together whether the tech team to work with, I have to work with compliance,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
To get everything cleared,
Yep.
right? And bringing the disparate teams together, customer service ops. Really, the ops people do all the work, but you have to bring these teams together. And really, it takes the communicator in the room to, come on, people, let's get this done.
I think that's the thing. It's a natural, if we're trained in comms and marketing, we naturally have that ability to pull people together, tell a story and get people to go in the right direction. But you mentioned tech there, and that I think that's one of the things that's really evolved in marketing in the last sort of decade. How do you balance that out, and how do you work with your CTO or CIO? Because, often it's MarTech and then it's tech, but more and more now, and we talked about this before, right? With chatbots, live chat, all that experience of customer experience, it sort of comes into our remit, but then IT still want to have a say and make sure that we're compliant, all those different things. So how is that working for you in Singlife?
You have to find a way to work together, right?
Yeah.
Tech is very expensive, so we constantly have to watch that cost, bring it down. It's labor intensive. You might be outsourcing it, and every project needs to be sized so that we don't have pet projects. We talked about projects earlier, right? People might have their pet. No pet project. What is it that will really help the customer? What is it that will really help sales? What is it that will really enable our distribution channels, which is the financial advisor representatives? In other words, these are things you have to invest in, right? But so you need somebody in the room, again, that will say, look, guys, how is it going for the customer? I mean, all your tech issues aside, make sure you clear the journey, right? So we have to establish these protocols together with our colleagues, right? And usually people just want to get the work done.
Yes.
Yeah, they just need some direction, need somebody to know that, okay, I have a problem, this doesn't work, who do I go to? They really just need that person to back them up and to help them out. And I think that's a role that we should play.
I think that's great. Yeah, and I've played that role many times. But Singlife, you've done some really polished TV ads, but on the same token, you've got a lot of organic YouTube and social content out there. So what's your media mix and strategy behind it?
Okay, so the strategy basically is that the last couple of years when we first established ourselves, we really had to build a brand. So we did this, what you call the polished TVC, right?
Okay.
That's the big brand campaign, right? And you do it 360, you do outdoor media, everything, right? You need to do that because you need to build awareness in this market, right? We looked at what the brand was, what the familiarity of the brand was. We did all the studies that, so that, and we track it, right? And at the same time, you do have products to sell, right?
Yes.
And we felt that you just need to layer your campaigns. Your product campaigns need to support the brand and vice versa. Your product campaigns can be very tactical. You need content, because I come from content background, and today everything is about content marketing.
Yep.
You need a piece of content to hook the consumer, to entertain, but at the same time, you're informing and educating. So I found that this has flipped. In the past, you would inform, educate, entertain. Today, we have to entertain first and then build the trust and the loyalty.
Okay.
Right? So you entertain with a hook to a relevant issue or problem or something, a need that you think the consumer has or is not aware of, a gap.
Yeah.
For us in insurance, it's what we have to do, right?
Yeah.
And then you build trust and loyalty.
And you've done a great job, because Singlife, it didn't exist a couple of years ago. I have a couple of questions to follow up on that one, because, in our data, we often talk about, and we talked about this before, and I shocked you about the creative wear-in, right?
That helped me change my campaign strategy this year. Thank you.
Good. That, people really need to let that campaign wear in. So I'm glad, and you obviously have that balance. And we also talk about, making sure that if you have brand and performance, you get a 90% ROI higher than if you just did performance or just did equity.
Yes.
How long did you let your campaigns, like you said, the first couple of years you really went big and you did a lot of brand. How long did you let them wear in to really back that up with the content that you were doing?
As in the brand campaign itself, how long it took? Well, we've done 3 in 3 years, right? But we took the story along. Instead of changing the characters and changing the storyline, we built it year on year.
Okay.
And with the information you gave me, I was thinking, maybe we're trying to do too many things, right?
Okay.
But, we found that it really did help lift the brand, the recognition, the familiarity was important.
Yes.
So I always tell the team, don't keep trying to chop and change. As marketers, you always thought, we want something new and something new and something new.
Yes.
But actually, you need to build that familiarity. And today, because not everybody's on digital, especially you're feeding people, you don't touch the same people. You don't necessarily get that brand awareness. You really need that big overarching thing. And doing that, well, it's 3 years now, and we're repurposing the content for the
Okay.
4th year,
Great.
and then we'll try to build the story again in the 5th. But again, I think it's a continual narrative that you have to build,
Yep.
and you have to tell your story from the start. We had to be very clear. Well, in the first year, we said this is the problem, and then we're like, okay, what do we do now with this problem? So how are we the solution? And we say, okay, we're the solution.
Okay.
So we have to constantly challenge the team to think about the story first.
Yep.
What is the problem you're trying to solve? What are we really standing for?
Yep.
How do we help the customer? And stick to that story.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's great. And definitely consistency is key. So the fact that you're building on this year on year, it's just going to pay dividends in the years to come. But you talked about that you track and measure. So
Yes.
what kind of measurement do you have in place? And, you know, just from my perspective, do you have marketing mix modeling or anything like commercial analytics that helps you know where those diminishing returns are?
Okay, we don't really track commercial analytics, but Neil was just explaining to me what commercial analytics means, right? But we do track. Basically, we track every campaign and every media buy that we do. When we work with a media company on the whole 360 campaign, right? We track in terms of ROI for views, for engagement, depending on which channel.
Yep.
We do our own brand study, so brand recognition, awareness, affinity, consideration. So that is a study that we ourselves track and we commission, which we measure throughout the year, every month on month, a base of at least 500 a month. So it comes to about 2,000 to 3,000 for the whole year, which is quite a large
nice
base.
Cool. Yeah.
Of course, and it's demographically correct and so on and so forth. And that really keeps us honest about the brand, what we're doing. And at the same time, I always plot our campaigns month on month so you can see the correlation.
Okay.
It's a very clear correlation.
Yep.
What you spend when you launched, how it goes up, it comes down when you reduce spend. So that's on a very basic level. Of course, performance analytics we do.
Yep.
We are also tracking with Adobe on our website, on the journey. They're always trying to add tools, switch on tools, which are in Target and in Campaign, on the app as well. It's actually a situation where if you have to be very specific now about campaigns and what you've done and launched, because there's so much data.
Yes.
Right? We're
There's
all
always
getting data
so much
fatigue.
data.
Right?
Yeah.
How do you use tools to help you analyze exactly what you need to know?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest points you had, and this is one of the things that I always talk to people, and in my previous role, even if you haven't started the journey of marketing mix modeling or commercial analytics, the fact that you're looking and mapping your sales data and bringing that in, you're at least looking at it from a commercial standpoint, right? So I think that's really great that you're trying to see where the correlation's there. You mentioned the brand studies, which I always love. I used to go through my brand studies and there was always something that I'd be like, yeah, I expected that. And then there'd be something I'd be like, oh, that's a little bit different. Anything that's come up that you were like, oh, that's a little bit different?
Well, I was interested recently. Well, we just looked at something yesterday. This product called long-term care, excuse me, which is basically disability insurance, long-term care, right?
Okay.
And there are only 3 players in the market. So we looked at it and we're like, why is it we are selling a little bit less than we are? There are 3 main players in Singapore, right?
Yep.
But 2 main, out of 3, the 2 big ones, right? We are one of the big ones. And I was looking at the sales data. Aren't we always on for this product? What happened? Why has it come down a little bit? So I had to ask my team, guys, this is the conversation also we had earlier about how much we're spending, right? How much did we spend in the first half? Oh, it's basically 50% less than we did last year.
Interesting.
Right?
Yep.
And the thing is, sales didn't even ask me about this. Okay. And we're only doing digital, right? This is not a big campaign because we're backloaded all our campaigns the second half of the year, the content partnerships. And then I remembered why, because we had something called the general election. So we just thought, okay, let's leave it. It'll be noisy, maybe a bit sensitive to talk about this right now. Let's leave it to the second half of the year.
Okay.
So we backloaded our content, our spends. Let's see. And I was like, oh, I hope all that backloading means we really see a shift. And then finally I can tell guys, see?
I'm going to ask you. I'll ask you in a couple months.
Yes.
Did it work?
Did it work? Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. It surprised me that there was a correlation.
Yeah.
And there wasn't, and we don't even spend a lot of money, right, on digital for this product.
Yeah. Well, I think that's when we start talking about incrementality rather than attribution, right? Incrementality is looking if you take something away.
Yes.
Does sales go up or down?
Yeah.
And that's the real test rather than how many clicks went somewhere
Correct.
else, right? So
Yeah.
that's a great test. I love that. But with your data and analytics, it's also under your preview. So how do you bridge that gap between like data science people and your more storytelling people to both drive the insights and the inspiration that you need? Because obviously you've got them all under them. You're going in one direction, but you've got very right and left brain people here.
Yes. Okay, so there are two parts to that. The first part is that I run the marketing data. I have the marketing data people. I don't have the data science people.
Okay.
The data science people report to the strategy head, blah, 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 because they actually also mine customer data.
Okay.
So we have to work with them to extract customer
Yep.
data.
Yep.
Like every time you want to run a campaign, say, can you please extract this group of people, blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
Right, right.
Yes.
Yes, they are very different, but within my team as well, I have a MarTech team.
Okay.
Okay, so they do the Adobe Analytics,
Yep.
the website stats, and you're right, they're very different people.
Yes.
So
In how they think and how they
yes,
act.
and how yes,
And how,
How
they
they
think
yes.
of the strategy.
how they
versus-
communicate as well.
This is
right?
true, yes.
And it's funny because every time I have a meeting of my what I call my leads, the people who are one down to me, the
Yep.
MarTech head and the performance head, they're quite different, the rest, the wavelengths don't quite. And I'll have to like, okay, guys, okay, let's not go down that rabbit hole.
Yes.
Yeah, just think up.
I
Think up.
know that.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Don't get down to the minutiae. How do you say this in 2 slides? You know what I mean? It's like, and Neil noticed me. I'm like, oh, guys, 2 slides. That's it, max. Yeah. I just have to encourage them. I mean, I see a lot of value in them, and the thing is, not everybody does. Unfortunately, always the production or the data, and it's because they find it hard to articulate as well.
Yes.
So articulating their value is not easy.
Yep. It's also
Yeah.
more back end as well. They're
Correct,
not
it's
seen,
back
they're
end,
not
yeah.
at front and
Correct.
center. So you're sort of like the translator, I guess, as it goes through. But that's part of the role of the
Yeah,
CMO, isn't
yeah,
it? Right?
yeah.
I've been in a similar situation and I've had managers, again, report to me very different personalities.
Yes.
And again, like you said, going down the rabbit hole, I think I've had the same conversation of, no, just 2 paragraphs. That's all I need is 2 paragraphs. But I guess that's the other part of being a CMO is mentoring your team so that they have the skills, whether they're on the analytics side or on the creative side, if they have aspirations to go up,
Yeah.
that they start to understand they need to start bridging the gap of that
That's
sort
true,
of
yes.
language.
Yeah.
The CMO Office is brought to you by Analytic Partners, the global leader in commercial analytics, which turns data into expertise to help marketers make the impact in the C-suite we need. What kind of impact? For every dollar spent on Analytic Partners last year, we return $70 in incremental revenue. To find out more, go to analyticpartners.com. Yeah, so that's great. I got a quick question here. I don't want to dive too much into it because everyone talks about AI. Okay, it's everywhere, and I know you're laughing now, and I know because I know we've had many discussions about that. But what I want to know is something practical. So you say you run a team, but it's very efficient, and you've got to look at everything. So where have you leveraged AI? Like, where have you seen? You know what? Beyond the hype, this is what I've done, and it's working well. Then I'll maybe push forward a little bit, or is it not helping at all?
I would say it does help. It helps with
Yeah.
first drafts.
Okay.
Right. I know my content team is using it for first drafts for
Yep.
complicated things.
Yep.
A lot of polishing has to be done, additional information, so on. I've tried it myself. I don't use it regularly though. We have seen it for my research team. So they use it to pick out patterns, right, in the data.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I think that helps.
Interesting.
Again, the research data analytics and the data science guys, they are looking at this, how the models, how they actually help see models and patterns in the data.
Okay.
I
Is
don't
that
know how
within
much.
your closed
Yes,
ecosystem?
Correct.
Yep.
So that's our own customer data and so on. Yeah. So it's definitely useful. There are still huge gaps for creativity.
Yep.
Like, people say that you can use AI generated images. No, not really. You can tell it's an AI generated image. I can.
Yeah,
Maybe it's
yeah.
because, I've always looked at this stuff, right? And it's like, it's boring. It's not really creative. Yes, if you just want to if you want ideas of what's out there, yeah, maybe pull up some ideas of draw me a picture of a fruit in a tropical garden, that whatever, and then a few things will come up. But it's not really creative, and it's not. Yes, I think you still need human creativity for that sort of thing. For artwork, it's quite far.
That's great. Leads me into the next question. I'm going to have a little bit of a leading one here. So, how do you ensure your team has the right mix of creative and technical skills to thrive? But I'm going to say, I know that you set up a in-house studio at one point,
Yes.
and that person that ended up running it literally just evolved into the role. So I'm extremely interested to understand how you brought that about and how you got your team sort of behind that. Because I know in the past, like you, I've been someone who's very hands-on, and I've gone in when TikTok started my team and they looked at me like a crazy person. And I'm like, well, we have to do it if we have to figure it out, like just play around with it. And as marketers, I find we're probably the worst people to do this because we want to polish everything.
Correct, exactly. Want it perfect until you go out, right? Yes.
We really struggle with it.
Yes.
So I want to hear that story, and also just in general how you've bridged that gap to get that creativity and technical skills.
So, well, I have a few people who are leads from my heart. One was somebody who was in a traditional media company, big broadcast company doing promotions, blah, blah, blah. So I got him to come in to do content, right? But it was more for like, we need to do explainers. We need to so videos and so on and so forth. So we set up a studio, right? And then
that in itself is that's pretty punchy to do for
mini studio. Yeah.
Still, most people can't make that happen. So that's great.
Yeah. I was lucky when I joined. You know? Everybody's still like, oh, it's still experimenting and just at the point of merger. But yeah. And so we use it for various things, right? For interviewing. At first, it was about photo shoots. You do this. We have to profile the boss. We have to do some videos, blah, blah. So the studio now is actually very well utilized because I have colleagues from other divisions who are coming in to use it for podcasts, for their financial content.
Perfect.
Besides using for meetings. So with that person, I think we've grown quite a bit of content. So he's responsible for the entire creative services team, which in many insurance companies basically used to just do brochures and layouts. And there are a lot of these things. I was like, what? Brochures and layouts? Do we still need to do it? We do. Every time we launch a new product, whole suite of things have to go out. Fine. And of course, we pivoted to do videos and so on, right? And in a different style. At the same time, I have a social media team, right? I set up a social media team, and the person who was leading that team, very small team, used to work with the previous digital head, and he actually used to be a comms person, right? So he wanted to do content. I'm like, sure, right? And he's pretty young. He's got a very young team, and we've got interns who work with us all the time. And basically, you have to. At first, I was like, please clear everything in me. Please make sure you let me see everything before it goes out. And after all that, let it go. Let them do it. They will come, they will ideate themselves. But the overarching story and the way we're going to do things for every campaign, the SG60 campaign we're doing, the brand story we're doing, we ideate together with all the different content teams. I actually have 3 content teams. If I think about it, the creative services head, the social media team, and the content strategy head. Who actually now works, well, basically the social media team now reports to her, but basically everything else that is a piece of content is cleared through that team. So anything you see on the website, any new product brochure, any blog, there's a whole volume of work that we do, right? And they work very closely together, right? So it's really getting the right people in, building that trust and letting them go.
I think that's the thing, because I think it comes off as very authentic. Like when I was looking at the YouTube channel and when you see them, and I know the story is the guy, he brought in his friend to talk about something quite personal, and he's very authentic that he came in and did that. And I think from a CMO, like you said at the beginning, you were like, I want to see everything, but the best thing you did, I think, is let's see where it goes and go do it. Because that's why marketers, we fail when it comes to social, and some of the content as well doesn't land because we want to over engineer it. And I think the best leaders like yourself are, let me understand your strategy. Let me know where you're going. As long as you're mindful of the P's and Q's of what we need to do and the boundaries, have at it and off you go. So I think that's great. And you can see, like, you've got lots of,
young people. I call
young
them my
people
kids.
doing it and lots of views on it.
The age of my kids. So I'm like, my kids.
Yeah, but they're the ones that, are sort of getting
it's
their
world, it's their platform. It's
Exactly.
It's intuitive for them.
Yes.
I mean, I try to go and do some things on my own, but it's and I have to edit it the way I want to edit it, right? Because it's my way of expressing myself. But yeah, it's intuitive for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's great. The next one I'll talk about is sort of like brand, trust, and human touch. So in insurance, an industry built on trust, and you mentioned that before. How do you balance that automation versus the personalization in your customer experience? Because, that's when we need insurance, we need you. Other than that,
correct.
we want to make it easy that we can buy
Correct,
you.
exactly.
So
Frictionless.
they're two very different emotions that I feel and touch points at two different stages. So how do you balance that out?
Yeah. So for us, it's always about the human touch because most of our distribution channels are our advisors.
Okay.
And they are the ones who hold the relationship with the customer. So it's almost like a B2B business.
Okay.
We communicate B2C about the brand and our products, but actually we have to help enable the financial service rep, financial advisor representative to sell. Give them the tools, help them train, and handhold that relationship and really help them. So the digital tools, so we're doing various things. So there are things that the public doesn't see. So it's upgrading all our digital tools for them. Right? So the submission systems, we actually started another company called Propel to service and to make it easy for the back end for them, calculating premiums, their salaries for the agencies and so on and so forth. So that's a service that we provide. It's a separate business.
Do you drive that, or did you
I drive the marketing for that as well. My team's responsible for the marketing of that. I mean, it's B2B. But yeah,
but did you help with the strategy of that? Because like we talked about before, because you've got CX, so it sort of comes into your remit. It obviously needs support from the tech side, but it seems that you would still be driving it. So they're very tech driven,
but we had to come in with the brand and how do you position it, how do you communicate about it.
How do you
we work very closely,
like the customer communications.
So because we centralize all of so besides Singlife, we centralize all the marketing communications and brand is centralized at my function.
Right. So even to the distributors.
Even to help all the,
Yeah, but that's why the brand is seamless when we don't know the difference, right?
Yes.
So then it's easy and you're getting those tools. That's great. Awesome. I like that. You work across the departments, traditionally operate in silos, marketing, data, customer experience. What does successful cross-functional collaboration look like in your world? And I think you've touched on it a bit, that it's really about the communication. I think it doesn't have to be with Singlife. I mean, you can tell me a past one. Tell me any that has been a bit of a struggle that you've been able to turn around. Like, what have you done? Like, maybe your listeners out there are aspiring CMOs or CMOs, so give them some pointers about what to do.
Well, that's a tough one. I think in different corporate environments, you find different silos or different level of siloing, if that's such a word. And it really takes a lot of leadership and courage to have to always be authentic and voice your opinion. But I'm like that. But I think over the years, you have to learn to be able to do it in a manner that's nice. If you disagree agreeably. Try to pull people together. Try to get people to see the point of view without being too aggressive. Because if you're too aggressive, everybody just backs off and then the walls come up even higher, right? I think that's something I've learned over the years. I think that it's important. It really is important for me now, I think all the different functions coming under me really helps because I have to keep telling them that my leads, guys, you have to work together, right? You would think it's natural. It isn't natural.
It's
not natural to try to get your own team up and your own KPI up, right? Yes. Without looking at the big picture about how together you can help support it. And it's really constantly, guys, having that meeting with everybody, please align on this, and having those same conversations, same room, right? That I notice people always want to have a separate conversation with you.
Yes.
So just why can't we do it at the meeting? Everybody? Yeah.
Well, I think that's what's helped you foster the collaboration. But I think that was a great tip that you gave of, being agreeable even if you need to disagree.
Yes.
So it's doing it in a way that is open dialogue rather than, fencing off your team, defending your team, which again puts walls up around everybody else. And that's probably why you've had more broadened role with different teams being put under you. Because they're like, great, we can work with Debra. Awesome. But you have many teams and I know you work at a fast pace. So as you take on more teams, how for yourself, but also for your teams, do you ensure that we don't have burnout. I think especially in Singapore where, you know, we're very focused on work. We do long hours. You know, it's sort of ingrained in our culture.
Yes.
How do you make sure that they are not burning out and that you're not burning out?
We constantly have, we have this big culture champion. We have culture champions in our company for each
Okay.
department.
Lovely.
So we're always organizing activities.
Nice.
We always look at mental wellness, sustainability. That's one way. But I also do have to tell my more hard driving, different people have different personalities. Some are more competitive than others. So I have to tell my hard driving ones, all right, please be more mindful about how you're impacting other people around you, right? So please take your time off because you need rest too, right? And don't work overnight. It's not necessary. I'm in a different industry now, right? The insurance industry is evolving and changing quite rapidly, there's no doubt. But we are not on 24/7 call. You shouldn't be on 24/7 call, right? 24/7 call happens once in a while, right? A data system has gone down, something has gone down, whatever. But it shouldn't be like that every day. It's not sustainable. Yeah.
Oh, that's
So
good.
that's the advice to everybody.
It's very good advice. I know. I agree the same. I mean, in logistics, unless there was a strike, plane crash, or something like that.
Exactly.
There were certain
These
things
happen,
that the incident response team would be called on. But if it wasn't, then we had to do that with our teams as well because they felt like they had to join the calls all the time. And it was like, well, either I can take the call or if you are needed, it's for a reason rather than just sitting and listening, especially in your own time. Because I think that's one of the things today is, you know, it's great if you love what you like to do for work, but you don't want it to be the only thing that you do. And you've got to have that balance and make sure that you have a life too. All right, I've got two more questions. One's going to be a rapid fire. So the last question I have for you though is, obviously you've been in the CMO role and extended for quite a long time. For a new person stepping into a CMO role, what advice would you give them? What is the mindset and capabilities and the non-negotiables that you think will make them give an impact and have that desire of credibility with the C-suite that we're all after?
I think the mindset has to be always agile and always wanting to learn because trends evolve and move very quickly. But it's not just about understanding trends. It's also understanding the technology and the new things coming out which impact marketing, right? And MarTech tools, AI. You have to, you can't learn everything, but you need to be aware that this is happening and find out enough about it. Enable, maybe if you have a team of people who are more, like if you have a MarTech head, that MarTech person is going to be more au fait about it than you are ever. So also introduce, make sure they are on top of it. Right? Give them the opportunities to go and learn. I think that's very important. It is a non-negotiable. The other non-negotiable when I was having this conversation with my team was that the ability to string a sentence together properly is very important and non-negotiable. We shouldn't take it for granted. Not all marketing people can write properly or present properly, but it's non-negotiable today because everybody today is a content producer. Right? In the past, this wasn't the case, but everybody's a content producer. Everybody thinks about their personal brand. Nobody talked about personal brand 10 years ago. Right?
So true.
I mean, we've come a long way, but I mean, to somebody coming out, joining the market, personal brand, of course I know what my personal brand is. 10 years ago, did we ever talk about it? No, right? So keeping on top of trends and understanding that, you know, the whole market has evolved, people evolve, understanding your target audience, very important.
I think those are great tips for anyone coming up. I think the one where, you know, the constant learning is a great one. It's something I always love to do. And I think it, like you said, keeps you on trend, makes you keep up pace. What are you currently learning at the moment?
Japanese.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Duolingo, fail. But anyway, that's one. Yeah. I'm not embarrassing. I'm trying to use Canva myself. Which seems really sad, right?
That's okay.
Gen X trying to, very Gen X about it. I'm like, but yes. I'm sure I'll get better.
Well, Canva keeps like giving all these new apps.
Yeah,
so it gets
with
easier.
AI.
It gets easier. It gets easier, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, great. So I've got one rapid fire question that I ask all my guests. Very quickly, can you tell me your top 3 marketing buzzwords that really annoy you? And that way your team listening, they can make sure they don't mention them again.
ROI.
Okay.
Well, AI actually.
That one has come up a few times.
Nothing really. I can't think of 3.
That's okay. ROI and AI. So if your
Yeah.
team's listening, stop talking about AI unless it has a purpose. And don't say the ROI unless it's
Unless I've said it.
Unless you've said it or there's impact of profit. We talked about profit before, not revenue,
Yes,
profit, and on the different
correct.
segments,
Yeah.
right? Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming in today and talking on the CMO Office podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure and some great little nuggets there for our aspiring CMOs or CMOs listening of how to go forward in their roles. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Nikki.
Thanks, Debra. Thank you for listening to the CMO Office. Don't forget to go and subscribe at the-CMO-Office for your weekly blog posts. You can follow us for more podcasts on your normal channels like YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.